What if everything we thought we knew about ancient history was completely wrong? Hidden inside rocks, buried beneath the earth and lying at the bottom of the sea, are objects that defy explanation. From a spark plug found in rock millions of years old, to a computer built 2,000 years before its time, these 5 ancient artifacts have puzzled scientists, archaeologists, and historians for decades. We're counting down 5 incredible discoveries that challenge the official timeline of human civilization. From the mysterious to the miraculous, the controversial to the impossible.
Artifact.
By the end of this video, you'll be questioning everything you learned in history class. Let's dive in. Let's start with an object so strange, so impossible that it was literally hidden away from the world. 5 incredible artifacts, 5 unsolved mysteries, and one question that connects them all. Were our ancestors capable of far more than mainstream history gives them credit for? Let's begin with an artifact so controversial that it was hidden from the world, and its location remains unknown to this day. On February 13, 1961, 3 friends were hunting for rocks near the top of a 4,265-foot peak in California's Coso Mountains. Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell were collecting specimens for their rock shop when they found something unusual. The next day, Mike Mikesell tried to cut open what he thought was a geode. His practically new diamond saw was severely damaged in the process. But when the nodule finally cracked open, what they found inside was utterly baffling. A cylinder of white porcelain, with a rod of bright metal in its center. The metal rod proved to be magnetic, but that was just the beginning of the strangeness.
Whoa!
The porcelain cylinder was enclosed by a hexagonal sheath of decomposing copper and another unidentified substance. This was no ordinary rock. The hexagonal copper sheath and the unidentified substance surrounding the porcelain cylinder suggested a level of manufacturing precision that seemed impossible for an object supposedly 500,000 years old. Virginia Maxey herself was conflicted. She speculated the object could be a mere 100 years old, or it could be an instrument from the legendary lost civilizations of Mu or Atlantis. Its outer layer was encrusted with fossil shells, hardened clay, and pebbles, but most surprisingly, 2 non-magnetic metal objects resembling a nail and a washer. Puzzled by their find, the group began showing it to friends and associates. Nobody could explain what it was. Virginia Maxey claimed that a geologist examined the object and dated it, based on the fossil shells in its surface, as at least 500,000 years old, 500,000 years. To put that in perspective, anatomically modern humans only appeared about 300,000 years ago. If this dating was correct, the Coso artifact would be older than our entire species. How is that possible? But here's the catch. That unnamed geologist has never been traced, and the dating conclusion was never officially published. But if these conclusions could be supported, if the Coso artifact really is a genuine example of unknown ancient technology, the implications would turn accepted history on its head. The only other person known to have physically inspected the artifact was creationist Ron Calais, who took both X-ray and normal light photographs. The X-ray of the upper end revealed something astonishing. The metallic shaft appeared to be attached to a tiny spring mechanism. This led researchers to categorize the object as some type of electrical mechanism, and the resemblance to one particular modern object was striking. Paul Willis, the publisher of InfoJournal, noted the striking similarity to a spark plug, but he couldn't explain the spring mechanism, which didn't match any contemporary design. Paul Willis, publisher of InfoJournal, examined the X-rays and noted the object's striking similarity to a modern spark plug, though the spring didn't match any contemporary design. In 1963, the artifact was displayed for just 3 months at the Eastern California Museum in Independence. Then it vanished from public view. By 1969, Wallace Lane was the owner and reportedly offering to sell the artifact for $25,000, but he refused to let anyone examine it. Sometime after 1969, the Coso artifact simply disappeared. A national search in 1999 failed to trace any of the original discoverers. Wallace Lane had likely died, Mike Mikesell's whereabouts were unknown, and Virginia Maxey, still alive, refuses to comment publicly to this day. So what was the Coso artifact? A relic of an impossibly ancient civilization or something far more mundane? Investigators Pierre Stromberg and Paul Heinrich had a theory. Mining operations in the Coso Mountains used internal combustion engines. They sent copies of the X-rays to 4 different spark plug collectors who had never seen the case before. All 4 independently reached the same conclusion. They were certain it was a 1920s-era Champion spark plug, probably from a Ford Model T, possibly modified to serve the mining operations in the area. The amount of decay on the artifact was an almost perfect match for the rates of decay expected in a spark plug from that era. 40 years, not 500,000. The spark plug wasn't embedded in an ancient geode at all. It was encased in an iron oxide nodule, formed by corrosive mineral dust blown off the dry Owens Lake bed. The Coso artifact isn't even the only spark plug found in a strange place. Others have been discovered underwater and on beaches, also encased in hardened material. Case closed, right? Not quite. Even today, you can easily find websites using the Coso artifact as proof of advanced ancient civilizations. The Coso artifact story is a perfect example of how a genuine mystery, once solved, can live forever online as a legend. The evidence points to a 1920s spark plug, but a good mystery is hard to kill. Despite the evidence, the legend of the Coso artifact as an out-of-place artifact continues to spread online. The truth doesn't always go viral. From a spark plug in California, we travel to Germany, where treasure hunters uncovered something that would rewrite the history of astronomy. The evidence overwhelmingly supports the spark plug explanation. But the fact that the artifact has disappeared and its owner refused examination means a tiny mystery will always remain. When you overlay the X-ray with a modern spark plug diagram, the match is undeniable. Every component aligns. The only anomaly is the spring, likely a modification for the mining engines operating in the Coso Mountains in the 1920s. Imagine it, a Ford Model T hauling equipment to a Coso mine in the 1920s. A spark plug falls off. It lands in mineral-rich mud near the dry Owens Lake bed. 40 years of sun, wind, and mineral dust transform it into what looks exactly like an ancient geode. The Coso artifact isn't unique. The world is full of alleged out-of-place artifacts. Hammers in Cretaceous rock, tools in ancient limestone. Almost without exception, they turn out to be ordinary objects encased in natural mineral concretions. Virginia Maxey still refuses to comment publicly about the artifact. Whatever happened to the Coso artifact, whether it was sold, lost, or hidden away, its final secret remains buried with its original discoverers. From a spark plug in the California desert, we fly across the Atlantic to Central Europe and to the oldest known map of the cosmos ever discovered. In 1999, two treasure hunters were sweeping a prehistoric enclosure near the town of Nebra, Germany, when their metal detector began to scream. What they dug up would become one of the most significant and controversial archaeological discoveries of the century. The object was a bronze disc about 12 inches across, weighing 4 pounds. It was patinated blue-green. Unfortunately, during their crude removal of the disc from the ground, the treasure hunters caused significant damage. The outer rim splintered. The looters tried to sell the disc along with bronze swords, axes, and armlets to local archaeologists, but they quickly learned that by law the objects belonged to the state. The treasure hunters were arrested in the sting operation. The disc was recovered and became the property of the state of Saxon-Anhalt, where it remains to this day in the Halle State Museum of Prehistory. In February 2003, they tried selling the disc to a collector in Switzerland for $400,000. But the collector was actually working with the Swiss police as part of a sting operation. The disc shows a crescent moon, a sun or full moon, 3 arcs and 23 stars. X-rays later revealed 2 more stars hidden underneath the gold of the right arc, suggesting the arcs were added later. Around the edge runs a ring of holes, probably for attaching the disc to heavy cloth. The deep violet-blue background was created by applying rotten eggs to the bronze, causing a chemical reaction. The deep violet-blue background of the night sky was created through an ingenious chemical process, applying rotten eggs to the bronze surface, triggering a reaction that produced the cosmic blue patina. So what exactly is the Nebra Sky Disc, and what was it used for? The answers connect us to Stonehenge, ancient Egypt, and the very origins of astronomy itself. Professor Wolfhard Schlosser measured the angle between the 2 golden arcs on the disc. It was exactly 82 degrees. Fascinatingly, at Mittelberg Hill, the sun travels exactly 82 degrees along the horizon between the midsummer sunset and the midwinter sunset. That angle varies by location. It only matches in a narrow band of Central Europe. For Bronze Age agricultural societies, knowing when to plant and harvest was vital for survival. The disc may have been an astronomical calculation tool to determine exactly those times. The disc depicts the Pleiades star cluster. Today we see only 6 stars, but in the Bronze Age all 7 were visible, matching both the disc and the ancient Greek name, the Seven Sisters. The golden arc at the bottom has sparked debate. A sickle, a rainbow. Most researchers believe it represents a sunship, a vessel carrying the sun across the night sky, a belief originating in ancient Egypt. A Danish artifact from the same era, the Trundholm Sun Chariot, depicts a horse drawing the sun. The belief in a solar vessel traveling the night sky may have spread from Egypt all the way to northern Europe. Just 15 miles from where the disc was found lies Göcek, a 7,000-year-old circular observatory. The angle between its solstice gates perfectly matches the angle between the golden arcs on the disc. From Stonehenge in England to Göcek and Nebra in Germany, a continent-wide tradition of celestial observations stretched across Europe for thousands of years. The Nebra Sky Disc is just the most portable evidence of this ancient astronomical heritage. This suggests Bronze Age Europeans were making sophisticated celestial measurements thousands of years earlier than anyone suspected, and preserving that knowledge across more than 3 millennia. But in late 2004, the Nebra disc became embroiled in controversy. Professor Peter Schauer claimed it was a modern fake created using acid, urine, and a blowtorch. Schauer raised valid concerns. The disc lacked secure archaeological context. There was nothing similar to compare it with, and the holes around the edge did look unusually perfect. But the Halle Institute subjected the disc to exhaustive tests. The copper came from a Bronze Age Austrian mine. The corrosion pattern was a unique crystal malachite that cannot be artificially reproduced. By 2006, a group of German scholars confirmed the disc was genuine. It had functioned as a complex astronomical clock for synchronizing solar and lunar calendars, the earliest known guide to the heavens. From Bronze Age astronomy, we turn to perhaps the most famous vessel in human history. Did Noah's Ark really exist? Dated to 1600 BC, the Nebra Sky Disc is the oldest known realistic representation of the cosmos ever found, predating Babylonian star catalogues by nearly 1,000 years. The 7 gold stars on the disc correspond to the Pleiades star cluster. It's not an exact star map, it's a symbolic representation, but one that proves Bronze Age Europeans were carefully observing and recording the night sky thousands of years before written astronomy. The Halle Institute's tests were exhaustive. The copper traced to a specific Bronze Age mine in Austria. The corrosion pattern was a unique crystalline malachite requiring millennia to form, and microphotography proved the patina was genuinely ancient, impossible to fake. Professor Schlosser believed the Nebra Sky Disc was one of a pair, and that the second disc is still out there, waiting to be found in the soil of central Germany. The treasure hunters may have only found half the story. In a sense, the Nebra Sky Disc was the smartphone app of the Bronze Age, a tool for reading the sky and determining the right time to plant and harvest. The technology has changed, the need to understand the cosmos has not. From the heavens above Bronze Age Germany, we descend into the waters of the greatest flood story ever told, and the search for the most famous vessel in human history. The story of Noah's Ark, found in the book of Genesis, tells us that when God saw the corruption of mankind, he decided to cleanse the world with a great flood. God instructed Noah, the one righteous man, to build a massive ark large enough to save his family and 2 of every living creature. Noah constructed the ark from cypress wood sealed with bitumen, a massive vessel 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high, larger than any wooden ship ever built. Animals entered the ark 2 by 2, representing every living species on Earth. The question of how they all fit has been debated for centuries. The rains lashed the Earth for 40 days and 40 nights. The waters rose until every mountain was submerged. All land life perished, except those aboard the ark. After the rain stopped, Noah sent out a dove. It returned with nothing. 7 days later, he sent it again, and this time it came back carrying an olive leaf. Dry land had appeared. Genesis says the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. God made a covenant with Noah, promising never again to flood the earth, symbolized by the rainbow. For 2,000 years, explorers have searched for the remains of Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. The search has been filled with dubious claims and outright hoaxes. In 1955, French explorer Fernand Navarre claimed to have found hand-hewn wood on Ararat, but expedition members later suggested he had bought the wood from locals and carried it up the mountain himself. The wood samples were tested by 6 different laboratories. The dates ranged from 190,690 years ago, far too recent for Noah's Ark. Mount Ararat sits in an extremely sensitive military zone on the Turkish border. Expeditions are difficult, dangerous, and politically complicated. After 2,000 years of searching, no credible physical evidence has ever been found. Even Apollo 15 astronaut James Irwin led multiple expeditions to Ararat. Like so many before and since, he found no evidence of the Ark. Another possible site lies near Doğu Turkey. A boat-shaped rock formation visible from the air has attracted its own share of attention and controversy. Ron Wyatt gained massive publicity in the 1980s and 90s claiming this was the true Ark, but geologists found his petrified wood contained 0 wood. The rivets were natural iron oxide. The anchors were Armenian gravestones. In 1993, CBS aired a documentary watched by 40 million people. An actor claimed to possess wood from the Ark. It was actually a piece of wood from railroad tracks near his workplace in Long Beach, California. From bought wood to railroad scraps, the search for Noah's Ark has been plagued by hoaxes. But the story itself didn't originate in the Bible. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written on Babylonian clay tablets, tells a strikingly similar story. A man named Utnapishtim builds an ark, survives a 7-day flood, and releases birds to find dry land. Flood myths exist in cultures across the world, from India's Manu to Greece's Deucalion, from Native American traditions to the Aboriginal rainbow serpent stories. When the same story appears everywhere, archaeologists take notice. There is no geological evidence for a single global flood covering all mountains, but there is abundant evidence for catastrophic local floods, events so devastating to the people who experienced them that they became the stuff of legend. The parallels are unmistakable. But was there an actual historical flood behind all these ancient flood myths? Archaeological evidence confirms a massive 6-day flood on the Euphrates River around 2900 BC. A king named Ziusudra may have been swept downriver on a commercial barge into the Persian Gulf. Or consider this. Around 5600 BC, the Mediterranean burst through the Bosporus Strait, catastrophically flooding the Black Sea. The shoreline expanded at a mile per day. Could the memory of this catastrophic flooding have been passed down for thousands of years, eventually becoming the flood myths we know today? It would explain why so many ancient cultures share similar stories. The literal Ark may never be found, but the story, whether factual history, mythological memory, or something in between, has survived for thousands of years, and the search continues. From ancient floods to ancient time, the Mayan calendar sparked worldwide panic about the end of the world, but what did the Maya actually believe? The logistics are staggering. Even if we accept the theory that Noah brought kinds rather than individual species, the Ark would still need to house thousands of animals, plus food and water for over a year. The engineering challenges would test even modern shipbuilders. The Ark's dimensions, as described in Genesis, give it a displacement similar to the Titanic. It would have been the largest wooden vessel ever constructed, and no wooden ship of that size has ever been successfully built. The largest wooden ships in history, like the schooner Wyoming, had serious structural problems. Satellite images have shown dark shapes on Ararat that some claim are the Ark. But in the age of high-resolution satellite photography, if there were a 450-foot wooden structure on that mountain, we would know by now. The Ararat anomaly remains just that, an anomaly, not an ark. Sediment cores from the Black Sea confirm a catastrophic transition from freshwater lake to saltwater sea around 5600 BC. The flooding would have been visible for miles, an unstoppable wall of water advancing a mile each day, drowning everything in its path. Now imagine this catastrophic event being passed down through oral tradition for over 3,000 years. Each generation adds details, heightens the drama, layers in divine meaning. A local catastrophic flood becomes the flood, the one that covered the world. The man who survived on a barge becomes Noah, righteous survivor of God's judgment. Perhaps the truth is not either, but both. The flood stories may preserve genuine historical memory of catastrophic flooding, while also carrying profound religious and moral meaning that transcends mere historical fact. The power of the story does not depend on finding a physical ark. The Great Flood was real. Many great floods were real. Archaeologists have confirmed catastrophic flooding in Mesopotamia, the Black Sea region, the Indus Valley, and across ancient China. Every civilization that experienced these disasters remembered them. And from those memories, our flood myths were born. From ancient floods, we turn to ancient time itself. The Maya created the most sophisticated calendar system in the pre-Columbian Americas and sparked a global panic about the end of the world. The Maya were a remarkably sophisticated civilization whose territory stretched across present-day Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, and southern Mexico. The Maya were the first people of the Americas to develop a complete writing system and to record their history, astronomy, and calendric knowledge. The oldest Mayan-style long-count date yet discovered comes from Stela C at Tres Zapotes, equivalent to September 3rd, 32 BC in our calendar. What we call the Mayan calendar is actually 3 different calendar systems used in parallel: the Tzolk'in, the Harb, and the long count. Together, they form one of the most intricate timekeeping systems ever devised. The Tzolk'in, the sacred 260-day calendar, had 20-day names, each symbolized by a god who carries time across the sky: Imix, Ik, Akbal, Kan, Chikshan, names that echo from a world long past. The Tzolk'in is based on the cycles of the Pleiades star cluster, a constellation so significant to the Maya that they oriented the Great Pyramid complex of Teotihuacan to its setting position along the horizon. The Harb was a 365-day solar calendar, 18 months of 20 days plus a 5-day period called Uayeb, considered so unlucky that people avoided leaving their homes, and remarkably, the Maya invented the concept of zero. The Mayan counting system was elegantly simple: just 3 symbols, a shell for 0, a dot for 1, and a bar for 5. With these 3 symbols and base 20 counting, Mayan priests performed calculations that would have been cumbersome with Roman numerals. Their counting system was base 20, not base 10 like ours. They counted from 0 to 19 before moving to the next order, and they used a shell symbol to represent 0, centuries before it appeared in the Old World. Together, the Tzolk'in and Harb formed the calendar round, a 52-year cycle. At each new round, old fires were extinguished, new fires were lit, and temples were consecrated in ceremonies of cosmic renewal. The long count totals the number of days since August 3114 BC, the date the Maya believed the current great cycle began. 13 Bactans, each 394 years, would complete on December 21, 2012. When the world learned that the Mayan long count completed its cycle on December 21, 2012, panic spread. Would the world end on that date? But the Maya themselves recorded dates far beyond 2012, including a royal anniversary in October of the year 4072. They clearly didn't believe the world would end. The Maya believed in a cyclical universe. Worlds are created, destroyed, and created again. December 2012 marked not an ending, but a transition between cycles. The end of one era and the beginning of another. December 21, 2012 came and went. The world didn't end, because the Maya never said it would. They said one cycle would end and another would begin. In fact, the ancient Mayan calendar cycle survives today in southern Mexico and the Guatemalan highlands, where calendar priests, day-keepers, still maintain the 260-day sacred count for divination and ritual. The Maya encoded their astronomical knowledge into stone. At Chichen Itza during the equinox, the setting sun casts a shadow that looks like a serpent descending the pyramid stairs, a phenomenon that still draws thousands of visitors every year. Calendars are humanity's attempt to understand the cosmos, to track the sun, moon, and stars that govern our seasons, our harvests, and our lives. The Maya were simply better at it than most. The Maya remind us that ancient people were far more sophisticated than we often credit. Their calendar wasn't a prophecy of doom. It was a monument to human ingenuity, mathematics, and our eternal desire to understand time itself. From the jungles of Mesoamerica, we sail to the Mediterranean, where Greek sponge fishermen made a discovery that would challenge everything we knew about ancient technology. Mayan astronomer priests tracked the movements of Venus with astonishing precision. They calculated the Venus cycle at 584 days, remarkably close to the actual 583.92 days. This knowledge was recorded on stone monuments and in codices for future generations. The long count works like an odometer. The rightmost position counts single days. Each position to the left represents a larger unit: 20 days, 360 days, 7,200 days, and 144,000 days. When all positions roll over from their maximum back to zero, a great cycle completes and a new one begins. For the Maya, the calendar was not just a timekeeping tool. It was sacred. Each day had a character, a personality, a destiny. Calendar priests consulted the sacred count for every important decision: when to marry, when to plant, when to go to war. What makes the Mayan calendar truly remarkable is its precision. Mayan astronomers calculated the solar year at 365.2422 days. The modern astronomical value is 365.2422 days. They were off by just 17 seconds per year, using nothing but their eyes and generations of careful observation. The 2012 phenomenon was a complete misunderstanding. The Maya never predicted the end of the world. They celebrated the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new one, much like we celebrate New Year's Eve. The doomsday interpretation was pure modern invention, amplified by the internet and Hollywood. At its heart, the Mayan calendar reflects a fundamentally different way of understanding time, not as a straight line from past to future, but as a great wheel turning eternally. Perhaps that's the calendar's real gift to us today, a reminder that every ending is also a beginning. The Spanish conquistadors burned Mayan books and tried to erase their culture, but the calendar survived, passed down in secret, preserved in the highlands, and still consulted by daykeepers who maintain an unbroken chain of tradition stretching back more than 2 millennia. From the jungles of Mesoamerica to the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, our final artifact spent 2,000 years underwater before a chance discovery changed everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. On Easter 1900, Greek sponge fishermen were working off the coast of the tiny island of Antikythera when one diver surfaced, babbling about what he had seen below. Elias Stadiatos emerged, raving about a heap of dead naked women on the seabed. What he had actually seen would prove far more significant. Further investigation revealed a sunken Roman cargo ship 164 feet long, resting 140 feet below the surface. Among the statues and pottery were lumps of corroded bronze that broke apart when brought to the surface. On May 17, 1902, archaeologist Spiridon Stais was examining the lumps when he noticed something extraordinary: a gear wheel embedded in the corroded bronze and an inscription in ancient Greek. As the marine growth was carefully removed, an elaborate geared mechanism made of bronze was revealed, about the size of a shoebox, with at least 20 separate gears including a differential gear. A differential gear, technology that historians believed was invented in the 16th century, was found in a shipwreck dated to the 1st century BC. The gap was over 1,600 years. Many scholars refused to believe such a device could exist in the ancient world. Some suggested it must have been dropped into the sea in medieval times and somehow made its way into the older wreck. In 1951, physicist and historian Derek de Solla Price began an 8-year study using X-ray photography. What he found was nothing short of astonishing. Price's article in Scientific American declared the mechanism to be an ancient Greek computer, a working model of the solar system that could show the motions of the sun, moon, and stars. The mechanism was not made by aliens or time travelers. It was built by skilled Greek artisans in a Rhodes workshop, craftsmen whose names are lost to history, but whose work survives as a testament to their genius. When you turned the handle, the mechanism calculated the position of celestial bodies. It had a differential gear allowing 2 shafts to rotate at different speeds, the same principle used in modern car axles. Price believed the mechanism was built on the island of Rhodes around 87 BC, possibly by the astronomer Geminus himself. Rhodes was a center of astronomical and technological research. Rhodes was home to amazing inventions. Philo of Byzantium described the polybolos, a repeating catapult with gears and a chain. The astronomer Hipparchus catalogued the stars and calculated the size and distance of the moon, knowledge that may have been built into the mechanism. In 2002, Michael Wright used linear tomography to study the gears in unprecedented detail. He discovered the device could track not just the sun and moon, but all 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Working reconstructions have proven that the mechanism functions as a complex planetarium. Turn the handle, and bronze pointers show you exactly where each planet sits in the zodiac for any given date. Cicero, writing at the same time the Antikythera ship sank, described a device built by his teacher Posidonius that reproduces the motions of the sun, moon, and 5 planets. We now know such devices were real. Ancient texts by Cicero and others describe devices remarkably similar to the Antikythera mechanism. Scholars once dismissed these as exaggerations or metaphors. We now know they were describing real, working astronomical computers. Some researchers believe the mechanism may trace back to Archimedes himself. The Roman consul Marcellus took great pride in possessing a planetarium designed by Archimedes, taken as booty from the captured city of Syracuse in 212 BC, when Archimedes was killed. Today, the original mechanism is displayed in Athens, with replicas at the American Computer Museum in Montana. A direct line of technological inheritance may stretch from ancient Greece through the Arab world to modern clockwork and computing. Derek de Solla Price wrote that the civilization capable of building the Antikythera Mechanism could have built almost anything they wanted to. Most of what they created has been lost. The mechanism survived only by accident. If not for the curiosity of Greek sponge fishermen over a century ago, we would have no proof that the ancient Greeks possessed such advanced technology. What else lies beneath the waves, waiting to rewrite history? Imagine being a student in ancient Rhodes, watching your teacher turn the handle of this miraculous device. The sun and moon move across the zodiac, the planets align, eclipses are predicted decades in advance. This was the cutting edge of ancient science, and it actually existed. Michael Wright's reconstruction revealed the mechanism's most sophisticated feature. The moon pointer uses epicyclic gearing with a pin and slot mechanism to replicate the moon's variable speed in its orbit. This level of mechanical sophistication would not be seen again for over 1,500 years. The Antikythera Mechanism was not a dead end. Its technology passed through the Byzantine Empire, into the Islamic Golden Age where geared astrolabes were built, and eventually into medieval Europe where astronomical clocks appeared in cathedrals. The chain of knowledge, though stretched thin, was never fully broken. The Mediterranean alone contains thousands of ancient shipwrecks most unexplored. How many other devices like the Antikythera Mechanism might lie beneath the waves, or buried on land, waiting to be discovered? We found one by accident, there must be more. If you ever find yourself in Athens, you can see the original Antikythera Mechanism still on display at the National Archaeological Museum alongside its reconstruction. Looking at those corroded bronze fragments, knowing what they represent, is a genuinely humbling experience. The unknown Greek craftsman who built the Antikythera Mechanism left no names, no signatures, no personal records, but they left us something better, proof that human genius, curiosity, and the drive to understand the cosmos are not modern inventions. They are eternal. 5 artifacts spanning 4,000 years of human history, each one a window into a world far more sophisticated, more curious, and more capable than we often imagine. The past is not a simple story of progress from primitive to modern. It is a labyrinth of lost knowledge, forgotten genius, and mysteries still waiting to be solved. And so we come to the end of our journey, but every ending is also a beginning. What do these 5 artifacts tell us about ourselves? 5 artifacts, 5 mysteries that span thousands of years and thousands.
Maybe.
Lesson 1. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The Coso Artifact seemed impossible. Lesson 2. Ancient people were brilliant observers of the cosmos. The Nebra Sky Disc proves that Bronze Age Europeans understood celestial mechanics far earlier than we ever imagined. Lesson 3. Myths often contain echoes of real events. The flood story appears across cultures because catastrophic floods really happened, and the memory was passed down, transformed by time into legend. Lesson 4. Understand before you fear. The Maya never predicted the end of the world. They understood time as cyclical, an eternal rhythm of endings and beginnings that continues to this day. Lesson 5. History has forgotten more than we know. The Antikythera Mechanism's 600-year gap proves that knowledge can be created, lost, and created again. What other marvels lie buried, waiting to rewrite our understanding of the past? The past is not what we thought it was. Every year, new discoveries challenge our assumptions. The next artifact that rewrites history could be buried beneath your feet or resting at the bottom of the sea, waiting for a curious explorer to find it. If you enjoyed this journey through the mysteries of the ancient world, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. The next discovery could change everything, and you'll want to be the first to know. Like this video if you learned something new, and tell us in the comments which ancient mystery should we investigate next. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop being curious. What these 5 artifacts prove is that the ancient world still has secrets to reveal. Every year, archaeologists make discoveries that challenge our assumptions. The next artifact that rewrites history could be uncovered tomorrow. It could be uncovered by you. We live in the golden age of archaeology. New technologies, LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, DNA analysis, deep-sea submersibles, are revealing secrets that would have been impossible to discover just decades ago. The next great discovery is out there, waiting. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the mysteries of the ancient world. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and share. But most importantly, never stop questioning, never stop exploring, and never assume we have all the answers. See you next time. Keep digging.